my teacher and my friend for getting me connected and taking me into this very constructive and intellectual and happy group of people. My thanks, as I always, that's a habit, my respect and gratitude to all my teachers for helping me learn the art of learning. A very good afternoon to all of you, members of esteemed Legal Academia. I am here to collaborate with all of you in a journey of understanding, discovering, and inventing ways of teaching research and ethics. I know that the theme for the day is a bit precarious. Therefore, I'm very careful. I'm careful not to venture into lecturing research methodology or not to venture into lecturing of research ethics to all of you. Rather, I would focus on discussing and focusing on ways and means to teach legal research and ethics. I'll just share a PowerPoint for easy guidance all the way throughout. Excuse me for a moment. So let's move ahead. This is a topic which is not without any punctuations. So I'm just requesting you to keep the topic the way it is put here in mind so that we can take that also for analysis a bit later. A researcher, just after entering research, maybe just before entering research, the person may be with a passionate, beaming smile and eyes, a glow in search, in quest of something which is very exciting and interesting. But after a while, or probably just before entering research also, a person may end up in a maze from where he does not know, she does not know where to go, and how to come out or where to reach. She had some focus in mind, a destination in mind, but then she's totally stuck somewhere. And it is such a researcher that we, the teachers, have to guide, to show them the way, show them the obstacles as also the ways and means to cross over the obstacles. So let's just move ahead in this path, and let me just put a caveat before you that I'm talking to you based on my experience of learning research way back 20, 25 years back in the Department of Law, uh, Kerala University, and my own experience in inventing methods in teaching students of law for the past 20 years. It is not really based on any concrete authority because there is in fact a dearth of authorities also on this. So all faults are absolutely mine, and with that, and moreover, it may be adapted by you, it may be rejected by you. You could take a best practice out of it and you could modify it. It's all absolutely yours. I'm just sharing the thoughts and notions as to how do we help this researcher, this person who's standing in the center of this maze, not knowing what to do, where to go. But of course, we come with a presumption. There is a certain litmus test which has to be qualified, uh, which we are not very sure whether everybody would qualify and everybody who reaches the zone of research really gets qualified with this litmus test. There are many things required, but the most important is research aptitude. This is something which the way the teachers are able to contribute towards this has got its own limitations because this is something which the researcher has to come with the research aptitude. But sharpening of it, of course, can be done by the teachers through a devised plan and strategy of proper guidance. There are certain aspects which make it possible for the person to come out of this maze. Having an open mind is very important. These are capabilities or elements or characteristics which are there in a researcher, but maybe he's not aware of it. Maybe she needs to be told about it. Maybe she needs to be reminded of it. Maybe she has, maybe it has to be instilled in her. It all varies from person to person, but these are required for a researcher. Keeping an open mind, objectivity, for which learning is required, but nobody comes with a clean slate. So a lot of unlearning goes along with it. Uh, Our system of education is such that it's more about reading, by hearting, retaining, and putting it out. Reading, understanding, comprehending, synthesizing, analyzing, and adding yours and giving it out is somewhere missing. Not always, but many a time in our schooling and in our generally in our educational system. So, as a result of which, a person who has been trained in this way, when he reaches the zone of research, it takes maybe some time to unlearn a lot of things. A lot of books have to be removed from our library, for example. That is the first thing to be done. And then starts relearning. Learning, unlearning, and relearning happens all throughout. And this alone allows the person to keep an open mind. And that maze, you may be stuck in the maze, she may be stuck in the maze. So perseverance is very important. For perseverance, we could always say that the researcher should have it in her, but then the mentor, the guide, can add a lot of motivation, which can keep the perseverance going. And legal aptitude, I had mentioned, along with it should come the passion. Passion, there is no substitute for passion. But here again, the teachers play a great role in being a model, in being passionate about their own work, which is the most important one to be displayed to a researcher, and also guiding and motivating. It is not about regulating and monitoring alone, it is about helping and guiding and encouraging. That is what move ahead. Uh, so these aspects are required for this researcher to definitely move ahead. I may not be following a very conventional format. The pictures may not be very academic. So that's how it is. I'm also experimenting on it. So this is, most of you will be familiar with this. This is Dora the researcher, Dora the explorer, in fact. Let's call her Dora the researcher. And let's walk her through the research maze. She's stuck there, or probably she's just waiting outside, not knowing how to enter the maze and how to find her way through this zone of zigzag and obstacles. So let's just together act the role of a teacher and walk her through the research maze. For this, we also need to relearn. In fact, we need to reimagine about what we have understood about legal education and the methods of learning that is involved in legal education. We have to adopt effective teaching methods. We may have to move away from the conventional system that has been set forth. We may have to modify it. We may have to take up totally innovative methods. But that is what is going to lead the researcher forward to better research, better learning techniques, and uh, the imagination, the cycle, the real learning continues. So here, let's help Dora select her voyage first of all. She is there. She wants to enter the field of research, the zone of research. But she's wondering, which research universe should I enter? Or in the larger universe, where is my research universe zonal part which I need to trace it out? So helping her with this, we can take her through, first of all, through an activity somewhat of this nature. This can be adopted not only for research, but even for guiding students with respect to their career, guiding students with respect to the subject of specialization they need to opt for, even guiding students to decide whether they need to enter the legal education system as such. This, you may be familiar with it. It is a well-known system. It is known as Ikigai, and it is a Japanese concept meaning a reason for being. In this, what we are looking at is whatever you think that you're going to join for or you're going to take up the research universe. Uh, should I venture into the area related to public law? Or should I take up something which is related to contractual relationships? Should I take up environmental jurisprudence? Or more specifically into any particular aspect of human rights jurisprudence? So I should basically decide, or we should, as teachers, we must help Dora decide and understand what may turn out to be beneficial to her, to the research community, to the research database, uh, and to the further researchers, as also to the universe generally, the beneficence factor. So for this, certain questions are to be asked by Dora to Dora. she must ask herself, what am I good at? Everybody has got a taste in certain legal concepts, in certain aspects of the wide universe of law. So, what are you good at is one aspect, and what you are good at isn't sufficient. You have to love what you're good at. That makes it a passion for you. And further ahead, she has to ask herself again, what I am good at and what I love. Does the world require it? Is there already enough of research done on it? Is there anything more to contribute regarding that? What the world needs, is it of any utility to the world at all? So she needs to move one more step ahead. And if it happens to be what she loves and what the world needs, her mission is carved out over there. But what the world needs by itself is not sufficient when it comes to choosing a vocation, not necessarily research alone, when choosing a vocation, because it is about, will you benefit out of it as well? Are you going to be paid for it? In the area of research, it may not be paying in that sense, but it may be in the sense of, are you going to be taken into the panel of experts, or are you going to be able to be accepted as uh, for your expertise in such a field? So what the world needs has also to coincide with what can be paid for. Will you be paid for it? Will the world have a value for what you're going to give towards the world? If that is also done, then that makes it your vocation. And what the world actually demands from you and is ready to give to you so that you give it back to the world, that is something which you are really good at, that becomes your profession. This concept, and luckily for some people, when everything blends together, that is your being and that is Ikigai. So getting an Ikigai of a research problem is very beneficial for all stakeholders when with respect to the research world. So moving ahead, and if one of this is left out, there could be a lack of one thing or the other thing. There could be lack of finances. There could be lack of that certainty because you do not love what you're doing. So lack of certainty or a sense of uncertainty might eat you up. And you are comfortable in every other way, but then uh, if you do not love what you're doing, then a sense of emptiness with lack of self-fulfillment may creep in over there. And moreover, what you are good at and what is all these other factors must of course be of some utility. Otherwise, it's useless. So all these are important even in framing or in creating a research problem for that matter. So we can use this Ikigai suitably in various stages of research, or at least initially with respect to research, identifying the topic for research. As we say, sometimes at different levels, we give an assignment to a person to work on it. That is, the teacher is giving an assignment, so there is no question of finding out on their own. They are being trained to work inside the assignment or the topics inside it. We could give a very broad theme and ask them to find suitable topics out of the general theme, like how we select for paper presentations under a very specific broad theme. And otherwise, it could be you yourself trying to locate the research problem. So here, Ikigai could be suitably refined, defined, delineated, and that could be of some use to us in helping Dora find her research or create her research problem. But here the questions will have to be slightly altered. We may have to ask Dora, what interests you or what bothers you? Often, what bothers me helps me to have lot of clarity with respect to uh, the research stipulations, which help me focus towards a solution, a very constructive, meaningful, and genuine solution because it bothers me. So, what bothers you could be. So, the student, the researcher, Dora, can be asked to think over, to ponder over what interests her or what bothers her. And then she should also, what bothers her by itself is insufficient. Probably it is a very technical aspect in which it bothers me, but then I'm not very good at it. So the methodology that would have to be adopted for taking up this particular research topic will need to be in my domain, or I should have some familiarity and acquaintance, and my potential should match that. Everybody is not perfect for everything. Even judiciary isn't. That is why we have the tribunal systems, like how the authors write. A person may be a very good carpenter, but need not be a very good gardener. So the same thing applies to each and every one of us with respect to the problems, the topics that we are specializing on, the topics that we are going to work on as a research problem. So what are you good at? What is Dora good at? Is something which she needs to analyze, and the guide, the teacher, can help her to think over these things and to come to concrete steps. And moreover, if already there is enough of matter available on it, enough of research has been done on it, and there is no further scope for it, that is answering the question what the world needs from you. Actually, in fact, we all have studied these things, that there should be a scope and objects for the research, and there are some methods to find out all this. But then, how do we teach the student about these same things which we have seen in a number of specified prescribed textbooks, research writings, and other expertise in the area? But did we honestly, we can ask ourselves, did we really benefit out of this sort of a research education that we obtained? Did we find it very interesting? We might have learned a number of ways in which sampling could be done. We study it like any other paper. We read it, we prepare notes, and we write about it for our examination. But then when you actually go to do the sampling, do you remember that entirely? Are you able to translate this theoretical part into the very practical aspect of it? So therefore, this sort of a method, I'm just projecting an illustration, a method which may be adopted, which may be modified. So it's not that any authority speaks about it in this way. These are my thoughts. Again, I'm taking that caveat. So continuing with it, what world needs from you need to be understood. And what is that outcome which is giving that utility that will help you create and state your research problem, that will help Dora to state her research problem. But then is it something that after you do your research on this point, there is going to be a standstill over there? Are you going to further expand over it? Are you going to be known in that field? Or do you have the potential, and is there a vacuum in the universe for you to occupy? Is there a space for you to occupy? So that can be related to the statement, what are you paid for, or would you be paid for it? Payment not in the sense of a monetary or financial payment here in this context of framing a research problem, but is it going to be something on which you can further work on and which can enhance your skills, as well as take those skills and expertise from you and enhance that universe itself? Now, when we take up this specific topic of, one second, of research and ethics, it's like playing with stones. You're keeping a smaller stone, and maybe you're keeping a larger stone on top of it and trying to balance. It is an abstract on abstract. And this is what we need to teach our students. So it requires a lot of brainstorming, a lot of innovative thinking, and putting to practice what you think is right and experimenting on it. It might work, it may not, but at least you know that that is not the right method. And somewhere at some point of time, this will get a concrete shape. So the literature available in the context of learning and teaching research methodology in law, legal research itself need to be enhanced. So I'm taking it as an opportunity to make us all sail towards that place where once this, like how there is in medical research, ethical concerns are very well stipulated. There are documents on it, there are guidelines on it, there are research committees working on it, ethical committees working on it. But do we have for legal academia a proper ethical committee to handle research and to lay down the guidelines? So keeping this in mind, and just putting it to you that we are working on abstract upon abstract. What we need to provide for the students is a very conducive environment where we always, when we construct a building, when we go to buy a building or a flat, we look out for the construction, the builder, and for a term, Vastu compliant. I'm just saying we as a general term, not that I or any specifically any one of you, generally. So we look out for such things, but are we looking out for a term called ethics compliant research center? We must develop and grow into ethics compliant research center, and that will help us. Practice alone can make us teach certain aspects of law and certain aspects of research as also ethics. So what the teachers have to provide would be the ethics compliant research center, along with effective learning of research skills by the students. Here comes giving training to the students to learn those essential research skills with, without which they find a vacuum, without which they feel manipulated or they feel tempted to take up practices which are considered to be unethical. So the question comes here, can skills be taught? If so, how can it be taught? Can it be taught by writing on the blackboard? Can skills be taught by making PowerPoint presentations? How are skills to be taught? Or can it be taught through Socrates method? Can it be taught through tutorial method? How is it to be taught? On the other hand, along with research comes the very valuable aspect, the stone upon the stone, that is ethics. Very precarious, because ethics by itself, it is very difficult to, like sweetness, cannot uh, tell a person how it is unless you taste it. Many a time everybody knows about it, but all aspects of it in its finest detail we may not be knowing about. So therefore, creating awareness, identifying the values can be done at our level. And adhering to values as ethics could be told, and that can be made as a way of life in our institutions, way of practice in our institutions, the inherent, the inner morality of our institutions. So values can be identified, awareness can be created about the values. It must be convincing to the researcher. Dora must be convinced about it, otherwise she will not follow it wholeheartedly, and she should accept it. So to make all this, since there may not be enough of research integrity or intellectual honesty guidelines as it is, which is supplied by our respective universities, we can take the research team, the students into our loop, and we can all sit together and we can frame statements and declarations and policies of different aspects of research integrity, so that we, what touches all should be decided by all is a very old Roman adage. So here it affects all of us. We are all stakeholders. The researcher is very much part of it. So values can be identified, awareness can be created. It would be convincing because they themselves are part of it. They themselves formulate it, and thereafter it is accepted by them. Then it need to be practiced. Once accepted, stipulated, stated, declared, and put it in black and white, then reminders are required every now and then. Reminders can come in the form of catchy statements on your way up to the library, in between the book shelves, on the laptops, as savers. It could be just anywhere, being told by the teacher, being seen by the researcher at every point of time. And once the acceptance part comes from the researcher, then the teacher must be firm on it. There is no going away from it. There has to be a zero tolerance towards unethical practices. But then we should start thinking of what are the ethical practices that we need to adhere to. For this, how do we teach research and ethics, and how do we convince and ask them to follow the practices? As it is, we all know that there has been a tremendous change in teaching pattern and the methods and the aids that we use. Everybody is aware of it. Uh, the teacher alone, one teacher, one human being walks into the classroom, just the teacher and the lecture method. That is nonetheless great, I would say, because I have benefited from such great teachers. But that is considered to be the traditional method, and that will not work with every sort of a learner. It has to change with time also, with generation also. But that cannot be replaced entirely, that has to remain. But of course, you know, a lot of other properties, use of properties as teaching aids were used. Earlier, before technology, other aids were used. Now, with the advent of technology, we all started using first the OHP machine, then now it's come to the monitors where we connect our laptops and that way. And then with the pandemic, we have totally changed the classroom. So I'm not spending more time on it. We know about it. Teaching methods have changed. That is a fact. So in this changed teaching methods, uh, it would be nice if you could list out few teaching methods, one or two or three maximum teaching methods in any subject. I've just listed out a few subjects over here, but you could list it out as well. And 2-3 minutes, we could just see the opinion, the thoughts being aired here in the form of chat or vocally. Please do participate. Am I audible and am I seeing any?
Yes, Sandhya.
Yes. Because WebEx is something a bit new to me, not too familiar. Are you able to list out a few teaching methods that you adopt in any of these or any other subjects? Other than lecture method, of course. I'm not very sure whether I should presume that keyboards are being used as of now. Sending voice notes to match with PPT. So that's not a transcription, I guess. Is it something else? Is it transcription or just explanation along with so that the person gets to reproduce uh, what happens in the classroom even later? Rupa, is it explanatory in nature or the actual transcription of the same words? Problems and case studies, of course. Now, in every subject, do we use the same method or do we use different methods for different subjects? Have we found any method or PPTs that include case law? Of course. Yes, I get it. Moot problems. Moot problems brings in a lot of analytical skills, being able to identify the facts, the law, and relate both. For these subjects that I have listed out, or for any other subjects which you want to use, is it the same method that we would be adopting for both, or will it be different? Could you please, Advocate Ashamol has written case comment. Now, could you please also write the name of the subject specific, like in evidence or in constitutional law? Any of the subject, listed or not listed here, uh, which is the best method that probably could be adopted, or maybe you have adopted or you have seen it being adopted. Subject specific method. Are these general in your opinion, or do these vary from subject to subject? Drafting a contract, very effective. It's pertaining to contract. But then when we look at drafting, drafting is a skill, could go even in a subject like Civil Procedure Code, it could go in Consumer Protection Act, it could go in consumer law under it could go under constitutional practice. So drafting as such is a skill which the student will get, even though drafting a contract will be done as an activity in the subject of contract. Client counseling method in professional ethics, that is very effective method, because there could be an ethical problem which is mixed up in the uh, problem which is given, or the client's version of the problem which is coming to the lawyer. Very innovative methods I'm seeing here. Actual recording of evidence, cross-examination. So this is like, no, now there is opportunity because of the virtual court for some at least to witness these, but there can be a trial advocacy for that matter, which is good. Uploading materials for each sub-theme in different folders. True, but is that a teaching method or it is a supplement later on? While you're teaching, what are the methods that are being employed? Anybody has any view regarding a subject like jurisprudence? Any particular teaching method? Interactive teaching method, yes, will be mentioned. Interactive teaching methods, which can itself be a number of ways interaction could come. Hmm? So I just keep the chat box open for me based on judicial decision. That is again analysis of a judicial decision. Probably even we can ask the students to enter into a shadow judgment writing. If not for this way, how sometimes when we really do not like a judgment or we find errors in the jurisprudence in a judgment, we could make another alternative judgment for our sake to understand. All these methods can be used, but then do the methods, I think you may agree that the methods may change from subject to subject. It is not that the same method will be used in every point of time. And for some subjects, we find it easy to use a method other than lecture method, where in other subjects it may be difficult to use that same method. So we will have to think about other methods. And sometimes in a subject like jurisprudence, other than lecture method, any other method may be more challenging when compared to contract or compared to constitutional law or sub-subjects. It all varies depending on the interest of the teacher, the time we keep aside for thinking about it. Now let's come to research and ethics. If identifying additional debates and discussions, of course, very good. Constitutional law and jurisprudence can be through debates and discussions. Yes, it is in fact possible to develop other than lecture method, other than PPT, other than sharing notes, and other than giving reading material. It is possible if we think and work on it to develop maybe a method which nobody else has ever used before. Only thing is we need to think about it. And these methods may be very customized, very tailored to suit your region, your type of students, your type of university, your subject, and the teacher itself is an indicator. So considering all the criteria and the indications, we will be able to tailor a certain method for a certain subjects. So moving further with that. Now, when it comes to teaching method, ultimately the teaching method has to be effective. Teaching methods or the new methods or the innovative styles that we adopt are not meant to just impress. We know that very well. It is about effectiveness. Whether this method is useful for this subject to this class at this point of time. Lot of variants are there. We must consider and give enough of time in our mind and space in our mind to think about all the possibilities and then devise the method. So a method has to be tailored to suit that situation. The method will vary based on the subject, of course. A method in jurisprudence need not be suitable for a method in teaching law of evidence. It varies. And there are methods but available which is possible to be developed for every subject. Depending on the learners, also it may vary because we don't have the same type of students in all our universities. Even inside a class, all the students are not alike. That is a greater challenge for us because in our schedule, we cannot squeeze in different teaching methods uh, within the same 50 minutes or 1 hour lecture time. But it is possible to adopt different teaching methods so that it benefits each type of learner also. And of course, we are also part of it. It is also based on the educator, the educator's role, the educator's own variable must be taken into account when we are devising a teaching method. A certain method might suit me, a certain method might suit you. We need to understand that also. And here, what we see is there is a wide spectrum of variables, and there are spectrums within spectrums. Within the type of learners, we can devise different methods. educators, each one can further be subdivided in a spectrum. Within the spectrum can be created in designing teaching methods. But ultimately, our outcome, assigning students to assess the, please read that. Lecture after a video projected in classroom, interactive classroom method. Oh, okay, thank you so much. Assigning students to assess the evidence of witness and appreciate critically the decision of the court. This is a very good exercise so that analytical power comes over there, statute study comes over there, case study method comes over there. Finally, they will have to critically appreciate, is it in writing or is it orally? So that also depends, writing skills would come over there. If they result in writing a shadow judgment, then that again could help in the way in which judgments are being written. So that is also an excellent one. Moving further, let's just brainstorm now. What are the methods or any particular method? Because now we have seen a number of methods. Many of you are using a number of methods already. So out of these methods, which method, or can you think of some new method, which can be designed in teaching legal research and ethics? Again, the floor is for you. I'll check the chat box. I'm here checking the chat box. Could you please think of any one or two methods that could be adopted? Any hands up for that? Writing and editing exercises, systematic review process, to be aware of do's and don'ts in every step, field visit. Time constrained, compel the teachers to adopt lecture method, whatever may be the subject. I understand the difficulty. The changes, we should be the change. We can consider that as a variable. We have limitations. Even when we do research, we have limitations. So within the limitations, maybe not every single day. And that will further lead us to a lot of things about the purpose of teaching itself, purpose of legal education itself. It is difficult, I understand, acknowledge. But there are way outs. Peer review of teachers, how far ethics are followed. Yes. So I see here a lot of methods wherein specifically field visit is being written there. So this field visit, out of the field visit, how the data is going to be collected. Over there. So there we are focusing on the empirical mode of it. In a classroom situation, while introducing the student to the various aspects involved in research, starting from selecting a topic onwards, we can guide them and give them simulation exercises to make them truly incorporate that value of ethics as also the viability of the topic and the methodology they themselves will have to adopt when they continue with their research style. So let's just try to help Dora make a plan, a research plan. Without this plan, those who have watched Dora will remember she's got a map This is a map that she's holding. She comes with a pink, purple backpack. In that are her research tools, probably. And this map is a very important ingredient for her. She has to have a plan. She has to have this map, without which she cannot continue further with the research. So how do we help her to make a research plan? Creating a research plan and discussing a very doctrinal aspect now. Collecting preliminary information on the problem. We can write on the board, we can show on a PPT. Collect preliminary information on the problem. But then we should also give them a topic or ask them to choose a topic and collect preliminary information on the problem. My own experience of collecting preliminary information on this problem, namely this topic which has been assigned to me, I'll share with you. Planning the steps of your research is the second step. Working effectively, both using the library as also online methods. This working effectively can very neatly be written on the board, but how neatly can it be incorporated by explaining it, by introducing them to each aspect of it, is a task which we should not shy away from. Collecting preliminary information and illustration. So here, Dr. Bismi had sent this topic for me to take up. And I had my own doubts about it. I could have gone ahead with teaching, gone ahead with the topic of teaching research, meaning I would have taken up research methodology and that same old different methods which are used in research methods. I could have taken up teaching research methodology and teaching ethics. What ethics? It could be professional ethics also, could be general ethics also. Research is coming, ethics is coming, and is coming in between does not necessarily mean that research has to be research and ethics coupled together. I had my doubts. No doubt is silly. I need to clarify, I need to ask, I need to check. So my collection of preliminary information was based on this confusion which I had, because I wanted to understand the title. Therefore, I asked and I clarified, and that helped me to move forward. So the topic can be understood in different ways. Teaching research and ethics. This is the topic I had taken without any punctuation, as I've told you in the beginning. Second is teaching research and ethics within a single inverted comma, so that research and ethics are added together and ethics become research ethics. Teaching research and ethics could mean teaching research and teaching ethics. Research and ethics are linked together, need not come to the mind of the person initially. Teaching, comma, research and ethics. It could mean teaching methods, research and ethics. So in this manner, every researcher with every small or a big task before them faces a lot of confusion. Actually, the person must face confusion. Only then more and more clarity will come. Because when we are confused, we tend to think about it. We tend to be curious about it. Then more and more clarity will come. Sometimes we tend to end up discovering a larger universe which was unknown to us also. That is also possible. So encourage students to ask questions. No question is silly. Student must ask, or the student must find, and the student must clarify. We can give them some topics which are ambiguous and then ask them to understand the title. How do they clarify it? What are the meanings they would bring to it? So that there is clarity stepping in from every point of time. And this punctuations is not a very small matter. That is very much important in research writing, because every profession has got their own tools. And for lawyers and for legal academia, our tools are words and punctuations. Punctuations bring in a lot of difference. In fact, we must also follow zero tolerance to punctuation errors, because legal interpretation is all about playing with words and interpreting it as well. There is a book with the title Eat, Shoots and Leaves, which you may refer to, written by Lynn Kloss. Briefly about that, I'll just introduce you to it, maybe because students may benefit out of it. It's a story. about telling us how important punctuation is for us. Now, this comma makes a difference for me, the researcher. If without clarifying, if I had presumed that there is a comma over there, I would have ended up taking a different session altogether. So, therefore, punctuation is important. The story behind punctuation and that book, the title of the book is Eats, Shoots, and Leaves. A panda, a giant panda, enters a restaurant, places an order. The bearer brings the food. Meanwhile, as he was waiting for his order, there was a wildlife pamphlet, a brochure which was lying over there. So he opened it and he glanced through it. He was reading part of it. After the order is made, order is delivered, and he had his food. He got up. He removed a gun from his pocket and he started shooting at all the patrons around. Then he's being asked, "Why are you doing it?" So the panda produces that same brochure and shows it and flashes it. It says, "Giant panda eats, comma, shoots, and leaves." So he decided to eat, shoot, and leaves. This is how the author introduces that beautiful book about zero tolerance to punctuation. By the way, storytelling is one important method that you could adopt in any subject, including research methodology. Now, collecting preliminary data information is not only about the title, it's many other things. What is the time that I would be getting to complete this task? What is the scope of this project? So the student will interact with the teacher regarding the assignment in detail. And what is the expected outcome? Am I here to present a paper presentation? Am I here to chair a session? Am I here to moderate? Am I here to write a chapter, write an article, a research paper? What is it that I'm expected? Accordingly, I will have to work on. So this again is asking and clarifying. If it is not clearly conveyed, to ask and clarify. And what are the sources I should look at? If it is about a certain code of conduct, for example, if university has a certain code of conduct and it is about training the employees of the same university on the code of conduct, I must procure a copy of that code of conduct itself to check it across and compare it with the universal standards probably. So are there any specific sources that I must depend on, I must rely on? Do you have anything particular in mind? Must be asked to the teacher. Are there any particular research materials that must be compulsorily followed? And whom should I consult? What should I refer to? All this could be the doubts in the mind of the researcher. So just by giving a topic to the researcher, discussion can be put only on the topic. This is when we assign topics to the researcher so that they, yes, that's it. Mr. Shashindran had written it here, hang him, not letting him go. Hanging him, not let him go. It is a play of words eventually that lawyers thrive on. So now, planning the steps, the second step, because previously we had seen here that creating a research plan has got 3 steps, which is a very theoretical one, nothing new, it's a known aspect. So collecting preliminary information on the problem is what we were seeing now. Next is about planning the steps. How do I go about this? Here, the student can write an initial issue statement. Like, for example, my research topic is about senior citizens. What are the rights of senior citizens? I start planning my steps here. So there, maybe I know the answer to it, maybe I do not know. So I can even make a mind map over there. I could make a flow chart over there as to, do I know this? Do I not know this? What is the research strategy I'm going to adopt? Which all places I could visit, or which are the documents I must compulsorily refer to. I do not know the documents, so I should search for which are the areas I must search for, in which all zones should I be searching for documents, availability or non-availability, legal paraphernalia or vacuum in the legal sphere. Both I need to search about it. So I must be searching for authority. I must be deciding between the sources. Should I go to a library and do research in the sources available in the library, or is it through online sources? If it is about international documents like United Nations General Assembly resolutions, I can get it online. The exact original document, I can get it because from their official website, it is possible to download it. Otherwise, some historical sources which are not yet digitalized, it has to be from the library itself. So decide between the sources, depending on also what is favorable for me, what I can access, what I need, and what is available in each of these zones. I may be knowing very well to surf the library, but may not be knowing to surf the online digital scope spectrum to get that particular information. So it all varies from researcher to researcher, because Dora is planning her steps now. What steps should she take so that she passes by and finally she reaches that destination. So I'm laying down my route map. So now the third step is working effectively. This takes a lot of effort, and we must spend a lot of time in teaching, in discussing, in conveying this part of it to a research student. I'm not speaking of the different research methodologies per se. I'm speaking about practically how a student has to do research, or how a student can help to do research in the correct manner. You go through a lot of information, both in the digital, that is print, as well as digital. But then effective note taking is a skill that you must master. The way in which a person takes notes is different from how another person could take notes. I had a classmate for my LL.M. Professor Bismi will remember. She will concise one entire theme into a single diagram. That is her way of taking notes and depicting it for her purpose. She will have to explain it to us so that we understand how it is to be deciphered. But for her, that one, I remember about a policy, uh, about government policy. There was a topic, and she had made the entire policy concept in the form of a bicycle, marking each part of it and linking each one to the other. So this is her method of note taking. Students will have their own method of note taking, but note taking is required because you are not going to read that again and again. When I say you, I mean not you, I mean Dora. So Dora will have to take notes very effectively. So how can Dora effectively take notes? This is something on which the teachers need to discuss with the students and uh, brainstorm with the students, and sometimes even go to the extent of learning ourselves and then teaching the students about the skill of effective note taking. And secondly, uh, I cannot, in fact, note taking methods are very many. Uh, it also depends on the learning aptitude of the student, learning method of the student. So some persons, they can only understand if they take down notes when they are reading something. But ultimately, whether whatever is your teaching method, you are a researcher now. It's not about taking notes in a lecture method during class hours. That note taking is different. But here, what I'm saying is you are reviewing all the literature that you have, and then you cannot review it again and again. You want to keep points out of it. You want to maybe use some part of it. So how do you effectively take notes? One very traditional method I will share with you. I'm using the word traditional because we were taught that by our professors at the department. This is about uh, keeping a long notebook, numbering the pages. Now again, since students may not be comfortable with writing and if they prefer to do it digitally, they can do that because nothing stops them. But the outline of the method will be more or less the same. We were asked to keep a very long notebook, and we have to number the pages. And at no only one ground rule is there for this. Should not tear any page from this notebook. If you do not want to use, do not use that page. If you want to strike out something, strike it off. Do not tear a page because numbering has to be intact. Numbers should not change at all. And when you read one book, and along with the notes, there will also be, it comes as a third last point, one, two, three, fifth point over here, the card system. Research cards were bought and cut into small card size, the 1/4 size of a A4 size, probably. And these cards had an initial, like how we cross a check. We used to write there, and I mean, draw. I at least used to draw two lines, and inside that we used to write there AC, BC, or CC. AC stands for an article card, BC stands for a book card, and CC stands for a case card. This is just for my convenience. And after I read a book, maybe I require only one or two ideas out of that book. but I don't have to carry the book, xerox all the pages of that book. I need only that one idea. I'm not going to refer anything more out of it, but I need that idea out of it, which I need to later write in my research writing. So what do I do is, in this card, I will note it. If it is a book, I will note it as BC. If it is article AC, I will write the citation that I need as it is, so that I have all information regarding the author's name, the article name, the journal name, the year of publication. If it is an edited book, the editor's name, whatever is required later for me to add in my citation, in my footnoting, I will collect that information. Then I will write there the idea that I'm borrowing from that book, because I need to give credit to each and every idea that I borrow from anywhere. Else, it is plagiarism. Plagiarism is not only copying the exact words as it is. It is also about borrowing an idea or taking an idea without giving due credit to the originator, would be violating intellectual honesty. So therefore, I will use that card and I will write there the idea which I have taken from that book. Need not be in the same words. I might write it in my own words. If I'm writing it in my own words later at the time of citation, I just need to write C or C generally. I need not, I mean, I'm not using the same word. So accordingly, later on, after I get a 500 cards, how do I differentiate between all this? So I follow a very systematic pattern wherein if it is meant to be a C, I would write the C at the side, probably with a different color ink, or C generally, so that later when the card comes, I know that these are my words, these are not the exact words. If it is exact words, I will write that page number and I will put quotation marks, so I know that I am taking it as it is. Always a page number where, or a chapter number where the idea is going to idea is taken from will have to be mentioned over there. So if I read 50 books, I will just have with me 50 cards which will go in my handbag. And this, when it comes to this is effective note taking. Now, regarding what is the need for that long notebook, sometimes from a book I need to take a lot of things. I need to later read a lot of things. So this one card space is not sufficient for me. So in that card space, I will write the page number in that book where I am going to enter more information. Those days used to write it down. If we are keeping, instead of a long note, if we are going to paste matter, photocopy and paste it, or if it's in the digital mode, we are going to paste it everywhere with the page number, it is workable. Only thing is we should write the page number so that we know when we take the card, more information on this I will get in page number so and so. So I open that Word document, or I open that notebook and I get that matter over there. And there also I will be writing the same way, C generally, or as it is with quotes and with page numbers. And citation noting is very important because the format of the citation itself, once we become acquainted with the format that our university is obliging us to follow, when we write down the details of the book, there itself it has to be in that format. And personally, I would advocate in teaching students to enter the footnoting and the citation then and there. Otherwise, it becomes, from my experience, I think this works for me. I'm not making it as a universal rule. It should ultimately work. That is the thing. Maybe I do not know a case citation at that point of time, and I do not want to lose track going away from my main working period. I can enter a footnote. I can add a footnote, and I can write over there that search for the footnote, search for the citation. At least that much should be there. So otherwise, later on, where to add citation, where all I need to acknowledge becomes a problem, and inadvertently I might enter into intellectual dishonesty, which I do not want to take at any cost. So I will be telling Dora all this definitely, but I'll give Dora her original space to design her own methods. Ultimately, the outcome has to be effective. That is all. And a card system I had already mentioned. Now, this information when we take from internet or the digital information, filing of digital information, I'll take you to soon. When we take up this digital information, always the trend is now save the date. Let us save the date of our of the file that we download also. So what could be done is, we might be saving a lot of downloading and saving a lot of research matter, the information floodgate, and we do not know where and what to find ultimately. Let there be a catalog for this. Whatever that you are saving, there has to, if we maintain a catalog for this saving, that is the digital filing the information in a digital mode with proper catalog in it. So there I would also, that should be, of course, digital. It should be in a Word document or Excel, whichever you are comfortable. But there, each file name which you are downloading has to come in that one column, and corresponding to that, you should also contain the link where you can get it originally now from, and the date on which you had downloaded it, because things could change. So ultimately, after maybe many months, I'm going to include that again in the chapter which I'm writing. So there I need to update, I need to check. So when you have the link very ready, you can check it and you can be double sure. And then once it is your final work, we all know that in the citation also we must enter accessed on so and so day. But if I'm publishing a paper in 2022, I think it's incorrect. A little bit of intellectual dishonesty on my side if I say last accessed on 2018. I could have very well verified it. Few weeks or few months, maximum a month is okay, but more than that is not a justification. Just before giving it to the print, to the submitting it to the journal, or giving it for print, we must verify it at the last stage also. So therefore, saving the date is very important. And we get involved in this, and that, remember that maze where the researcher is standing not knowing where to go, what to do. This happens because we do not know where to stop. Information is such that it is just vast. It's okay, we have to stop at some point of time. Dora should stop and come back because she has to further do her research at greater levels. Probably it's a continuation of this alone. There is a time span given to the student within which the student has to complete each research work. So there has to be a point where Dora has to stop. So she has to decide where to stop, and that need to be told to her to stop, because otherwise it will not be possible within the work day. There are a lot of milestones in our research. These are all contained as chapters in research methodology books. How to draw a hypothesis, purpose, the focus, and regarding hypothesis, I just need to add a point that when we are making hypothesis, Dora should be told that she is not a lawyer arguing a matter in a court where she need to prove a point. Hypothesis is not meant to be proven. It could be disproved also. We only will verify the hypothesis. We will only tell Dora to verify the hypothesis. That is honesty. That is intellectual honesty. Otherwise, Dora may be tempted to manipulate or fabricate or falsify a data so as to suit her hypothesis. If I stated a hypothesis, that doesn't mean that I was right in the beginning. I'm going to verify it. I may stand proved, I may stand disproved. That is okay. Hypothesis is meant to be verified, and not like a lawyer who would interpret to serve the purpose or the stand that he's taking, or the side that he's standing for, to protect the interest of the client. We are to protect the interest of truth, interest of legal truth in the matter, so that further researchers benefit out of this. And it is a continuum. It is like making a necklace out of beads. This particular research that I'm doing is a point in this continuum, and others will follow that. So I have to do my role very responsibly and very ethically. And I'm just saying that there are a lot of things involved over here, like research, literature review, writing, the rules regarding how to write. All these are covered in different sessions and in different chapters. But then the point is, while doing all this, these are all different milestones. We are not going to explore each one now. We are focusing on how to help Dora pass through all of these milestones in a very effective manner. So then, to pass through these milestones very effectively, Dora must have with her a constant companion. And this constant companion is called research ethics. Without research ethics, it is not possible to continue and reach that level which you are meant to reach. That the truthfulness of the research will be manifested, will be the work that you're doing will be translated into a credible work forever. It will stand only if research ethics are complied with. So the universities itself must be research compliant. The atmosphere must be very conducive for a researcher to go ahead with research compliance, and the researcher must be told what are the indicators of research ethics. To start with, I would tell Dora that clarity is required and honesty is required. Research starts with clarity and honesty and ends with clarity and honesty. Any point when clarity is lost, in that maze you're lost. So you need to regain your clarity. How do you regain your clarity? Is by whenever there is a stop, it means you're not clear. Stop, pause, do not compromise. And honestly, go to solve and get more information regarding it. Maybe you find that you're wrong. Ethics is not only when you're right, ethics is also when you find yourself wrong. How would you correct it? Go back and correct it. I remember our professor, Dr. Sunny, telling us that when you print your thesis, LL.M thesis, to dissertation to submit, maybe after printing, definitely, according to Sir, and I found it true in every case, after printing, we tend to find some mistakes. So there are two options for you. You can just leave it as it is, because nobody might notice is what you could think or what you could presume and hope for. Another thing is correct it, even if it means overwriting with a writing and with a pen, writing over it. Sir said, and I still remember and I follow that always, seeing a mistake and correcting it is better than keeping a keeping a page very clean and tidy. Because the later researcher who comes across it will only appreciate the effort taken by you in writing and correcting it rather than leaving it as it is. So that clarity is honesty is not only when everything is right. Ethics comes into picture. What if you are wrong? How can you correct it? Because then only you will get clarity to move forward. So the guiding light, Dora's torchlight, is clarity and honesty. With respect to research ethics, uh, I have a question for you, some thinking space for you now. Can you identify the stakeholders when we start into the realm of research ethics? Who are and who should be the responsible players in the research ethics? Who could identify the stakeholders and who all should be responsible in maintaining research ethics? Yes, thanks for that. University research guide, the researcher herself. Any more? Academia generally, they are stakeholders because I want good research should happen, because if I refer to something, I want it to be credible. Therefore, as a member of research fraternity and a member of academia, I am also a stakeholder. Reviewers are stakeholder, correct. Community is a stakeholder. If it deals with the rights of, say, differently able persons, they are the stakeholders. Society generally is a stakeholder because you're contributing to the research universe, knowledge base. There are a lot of stakeholders over here. All of them must be the keepers of research ethics also. The researcher, that is the author or the authors. Now, when there's a single author, the guidelines are there, but when there is a case of co-authorship, even more guidelines are there. There must be clarity at every stage. As to future researchers, of course, as a stakeholder, because it's a continuum in the chain of events. Uh, Now, when there is a case of co-authors, a lot of research and a lot of ethical concerns are there, including how do you differentiate, or how do you decide who will be named as the first author and who will be named as the second author? Do you have clarity beforehand in delineating the work that you're going to take up? How much of work and how much of credit and what, everything has to be delineated beforehand. So here, is it that if two persons are co-authoring, the senior professionals, uh, academicians' name would come first and the juniors would come second? Is it correct? Is it ethical? Uh, Ethics says that whoever has contributed and played a major role, that person's name should come first. Secondly, there is a practice of probably a funded research wherein a person who, they may be doing some 4 5 projects together, and they will decide to give the authorship to each one person. This will be authored by one, this will be authored by other, because the scoring and value is more for single authorship. Here, a person who might not have involved that much in her research, particular research, may also get one of the articles or one of the papers in their name. This could be an issue which is over there. And authors may be writing for or for the interest of the funding agency that is possible. So how much of ethics is involved over there when it comes to authorship? Moving further to the guide, of course, now these values which I have put on the right hand side, they are overlapping, they are applicable to everyone. But I found it to be the key value, the most striking value with respect to each of these words. For the author, that honesty is predominant. For a guide, competency is predominant. All the other values, of course, are there. Competency is very predominant. And competency is to be continuously maintained through all the values incorporated into it. An institution must list out the values. What is this institution standing for? What is the research ethics statement of this institution? Or what is the research integrity declaration of this institution? That must be announced, declared, and that must be abided by. So that is, institution should uphold the values which they pronounce and they declare in the public realm. And when it comes to a publisher, transparency is required for the journal who is going to publish. On what basis is a journal going to publish? And there are publications where payment is also part of it. So the thing is, it all depends on whether there are a lot of ethical concerns over there. It is for you to analyze and go into that area. But then sometimes it is a joint venture where to meet the cost of publication, charges are taken from the author, not other way around, not as a consideration to publish. As a consideration to publish, I would say it is unethical. But to meet the cost factor, if a joint group is publishing, in which case transparency should be there for what purpose and how much of money, or what are the criteria, where is it going to be a peer reviewed one, is it a double peer review, is it a blind peer review, which format of citation are we going to take, on what basis are we going to select the articles for publication, uh, and what are the dates that you have to adhere to, what are the citations you have to adhere to, uh, what are our standards that we will be making as a checklist to either accept or reject your publication. There must be transparency with respect to the publisher, the journal also. When it comes to peer review, integrity is the keyword which comes to my mind, because somebody else's article, paper, research is reaching my hand. So how much of integrity I need to keep with it, because I'm reviewing it, and as I'm reviewing it as a job, I'm also coming across information which is unpublished and ideas which are unpublished. I should exercise my discretion with integrity to give it all the respect it duly deserves. Now, I'm just putting before you 2-3 case instances. These and similar instances you could put up before your research scholars and call for discussions on it, brainstorming on it. The case of the change in co-authors. This is something which I faced when I was editing our Salgaocar Law Journal. A certain author, at the time of abstract submission, it was considered to be a single author. Later, a co-author's name was added within the stipulated time. If any changes were there, within a stipulated time, they could make the changes. So within the time, co-author's name was added. Last, at the time of submission, one day, the name of the co-author was changed and another co-author's name, a male came. The next day again, that name was changed. 3-4 times this has happened. Now, do you think there is an ethical issue with respect to it? And how would you deal with this issue? I'm keeping the chat box open for my view, waiting for your responses. There will be 2 to 3 instances where it would be good if all of you think and respond. Do we understand whether it is an ethical issue? Is the objective of this exercise? is there an ethical issue, first of all? Because there are no complaints coming from anyone else. The author himself is changing the co-authors. Maybe the other co-authors also do not have an issue. There is no complaint here. It is about changing co-authors. A person submits an article for publication and later changes the co-author's name. There could be victimization is another matter. Could be. What is the ethical issue involved here? Could you just identify that? Because there could be or there could not be, we do not know. But we can easily identify the ethical issue involved over here. What could be that? With clarity. To be fair, author has to explain why co-author changes. Yes. So here the question is also about what stage has the co-author changed? Is it in the beginning, very beginning, sometime later, or is it towards the end? That also will make a difference. But explanation is one method the editor may seek in order to get more clarity on the issue. But at the outset, when we look at it, what is the ethical issue involved here? Author is definitely a person who has authored it, who has played a role in it. How can that name change? Does it mean that the first named person did not contribute to it? Or does it mean that another person contributed and wrongly this one's name was taken? If I'm a detaining authority and I issue a detention order against you saying that you had done point number 1 and 2. Later, I say you have not done point number 1. Court would say that I did not apply my mind to it. Because I am issuing an order against you on the premise that you have done this. I have received an article from you on the premise that you have authored it. You too have authored it. When one name changes, that denotes, did you not author? What is it? That is the ethical issue which is arising over there. And the editor can deal with the issue by not allowing it, sticking to the first author. It could be done at their level. But the point is, if we understand and envisage such situations which may or may not arise, our policy statement regarding our journal or regarding our issue will be very clear and the rules will be clear cut. The more we study the different cases which has arisen, not necessarily in legal research itself, even anywhere in research related, ethics related issues, I'll come to that. How it value if more than 3 authors for articles. Are you speaking of the value in the sense of sorry, I did not see a previous message also. Somebody did a lot of work and thereafter if somebody else is made a co-author, it would be injustice to the former. But are you going to sit here to give justice to different people who may or may not be the authors? We do not have access to it. For us, the point is to decide and understand there is an ethical concern, because how can names of people who did not, this is somebody's signature, and how will I publish it with that signature if I'm not sure that this person is behind it? That becomes from my side. Now, Amit Kumar Reddy has asked if value if more than 3 co-authors for articles. Do you mean to say scoring pattern or whether it is of value? Scoring, universities will have its own guidelines regarding how much a score will go. If 2 co-authors, definitely if it is API score, it will be divided between them. And if it is about research, seed money and things like that, that again varies from university to university, depending on how many co-authors can be there. Now, if you ask me what is the value of the research as a research, I would say it is of utmost value, whether it is a single author or 2 authors or 3 authors. Value is for the credibility of the information and the research that is given. It is not based on how many authors are there, but sure, of course, we limit the number of authors because otherwise it will not be possible to incorporate into our system. Moreover, a certain work we expect it to be done by not more than so many authors. That is our research journal policy, for which the authors have to abide by. Now, there is another issue before you. You could think about it and respond. Institutions pay the authors for certain publications. This is payment in the sense of, I'm just using a very crude word, name, a word paying. It could be research allowance given for doing actual research. It could be in the name of a grant, which is given, which is really required for the authors to survey the literature, to study, to take preparatory leave, to do research leave, etc. That is also the institution paying to the authors. What I'm saying is, if an institution is outrightly paying to the author for the publication, is there an ethical issue? Is it a grant or a funding? Or is it a remuneration? Or is it a fee for affiliating? If I write my university's name, my affiliation is my university. So to write a university's name, is there a payment in the sense, can universities or institutions take people who are publishing and affiliate? These are all happening around the globe. I've taken this from research cases which are reported in European reports. So I will be giving the reference of those reports towards my last slide. These are issues not just in any part of the country or in our country alone. These are worldwide. These are global issues which need to be thought about and which need to be addressed. Scoring will be divided. This single author will have the entire scoring, otherwise it will be divided among the authors. Now, these are few points for you. It would be very good if you could just go through it and just mark it for yourself. Do you think it not serious, somewhat serious, or very serious? You can mark your attitude towards these practices. Certain practices and terms, in case somebody is not familiar, I will explain that as well. One is gift authorship. So you could write in your paper, on your paper, one is A, B, or C, just for self-assessment. Gift authorship, as I had told you before. I do not involve myself, not contribute too much into that. But then it is understood that this paper will come in my name. It is gift authorship. Nobody has a claim. There is not going to be any case coming against me or anybody else. It's a case of gift owner authorship. What is your attitude towards these practices? Do you consider it very bad or not? Very serious, somewhat serious, or not serious? C, B, or A. Secondly, salami slicing, it is called. You do a research. You develop enough of data, literature. You have the matter now. That particular hypothesis, research problem is there, and you have your own findings. Now you slice it and you publish it into different publications. Like one part of it into one. If you go to see, the research problem is the same, the solution is the same. But you do not write the same paper in the same words again, using the same work. You read a book once, and how you will use it into, or you write one book review. Now you write another book review on the same book. It's something like that. So it is salami slicing. Is it of a very serious matter, somewhat serious, or not serious? Sorry, the third point is not date, it is data. There are 3 points coming one after the other. Altogether, we'll call it as FFP, fabricate, falsify, and plagiarism. Fabricating is you're creating a data, it doesn't exist, you're making one. Falsifying is you have the data in hand, you're choosing what is necessary for you. You're hiding part of it, you're saying half of it, or you are just taking extracts to show that your hypothesis stands true. You're falsifying the data. That is something like the story of Ashwatthama. Ashwatthama is no more. Ashwatthama died, but then Ashwatthama, the elephant, not the human being. So here it's a falsification of the data. And then is a case of plagiarism. Plagiarism is of different kinds, exact words being used, the idea being copied without giving credit is the most important part. This I'm sure plagiarism, everybody would say that it is very serious. falsifying data and fabricating data also could be marked as very serious. I'm just presuming. Copying other citations. I go through a research paper and I find that she has put some citations. So I'm writing a paper. Now I'm not referring or giving credit to her, but I'm citing her citations without going to that original source. So is this very serious, somewhat serious, or not serious at all? Using research material when authorship is contested. There is a contest going on about the authorship of a certain material. You are aware of it. During the time, maybe you're party to it also. During the time you're using that research material. Next is whistleblowing in research. In Cambridge University, they have got a whistleblowing statement and a policy put up by the university. Whistleblowing, you must be knowing when there is an issue, we must blow a whistle so that the authorities come to know about it. So there is a duty, there is a mandatory duty on researchers and all the stakeholders and universities in other countries who take research very seriously and research ethics very seriously, so that in order to keep the high standards of research integrity, they make it mandatory that if you see that an unethical practice is happening, you must blow the whistle. Blow the whistle doesn't mean that you should blow it in public to the media, but you should take it to the concerned authority who is in charge of maintaining research ethics. So if I have to report and I do not report, I come to know that somebody is doing this dishonesty, intellectual dishonesty, or it could be about FFP also, fabricating, falsifying, and plagiarism, and I'm not reporting the matter. So is it refraining from whistleblowing in serious breaches? Is it not serious, somewhat serious, or very serious? And another of the many so-called, or not so honest practices is including irrelevant citations to increase a friend's citation frequency. More times I am being cited, my citation frequency increases. So to give me that academic value and credit, my friend is writing an article and Dora will write for me, citing my matter, even if Dora's problem is nothing associated with mine. She draws in some remote connection and she puts or cites me so that my citation frequency increases. Do you find it not serious, somewhat serious, or serious? These are very many issues which are there, out of which I've picked up a few. And in this gift authorship should also come the category of many a time the guide and the researcher together co-author an article. So here, is it proper on the part of the guide to do so? If the guide does not seriously involve in the writing and the research. If it is, they are just two co-authors. By default, whether the guide's name should be involved, should be added along with the researcher's name also. Are there any university guidelines regarding it? Should we have some university guidelines regarding it? Because without the backdrop being set, teaching research to students wouldn't be very honest to ourselves. Can I just see some of your responses specifically for anything if you want to? Two, 6, and 8 is. So you had considered not serious in a number of aspects, like gift authorship is not, fabricating. I don't know if there is an error, because what I'm seeing here is A stands for not serious. So fabricating 4, 5, and 7 are not serious is what is mentioned. I do not know if there is an error when you type it out. Yes, I got it. It can't be so. That is fine. Thank you. And anyone else wants to share your inputs, observations, thoughts, attitudes? We could use this. See, we are here discussing something of how do we teach research and ethics to our students. So we could give such exercises. You could make your own exercises. So whatever I am incorporating here, please take it as demonstrations. because Dora is there and we are doing all this for Dora, the research. So let me continue ahead. We have got 25 minutes more and few more areas to cover. In case anybody feels like sharing your input, you're most welcome. I'll be looking at the chat box also. Now, while we design teaching methods, we have to think out of the box. Really, really out of the box. If we stick on to the established and familiar patterns of teaching, we cannot make anything new. And teaching method will vary from person to person. Every teacher is capable of designing teaching methods. Thing is, we need to, if we have not yet done it, we should just sit down, think about this topic, plan it, and what would help. Review the literature of best practices done by others also in this field. I will just make use of this opportunity, thanks to my teacher, Dr. Bismi, to share some of the best practices which I think are best that I have used in course of time. There is a way in which we can teach research methodology regarding how to find a statute, how to find a case, how to find law in short. So this finding law is an important aspect for legal research. Everywhere in the realm of research and ethics, we see only research generally for social sciences and for medical and other professional. Legal research isn't having enough of database, I would say. It is so much linked to social sciences that even if we come across a book which deals with the title of legal research, we end up seeing again and again social science methods. What is it that is unique to us? For us, our tools are what is it what is a researcher if a researcher cannot read and understand a statute or read and analyze a case law? These are our raw materials we work from. So therefore, I had used this method of treasure hunt and called it by this fancy name, race and research. It was in constitutional law, and students had actively participated and they enjoyed it. They, in fact, the ones who volunteered to help me in keeping the clues and all this logistic work, they requested that I conduct another treasure hunt for them because they could not participate as they were with me, helping me in the process. So that much of enthusiasm I had seen, and I strongly suggest that you must try this method. Instead of sending the students to the library to find certain statutes or which case is overruled in which judgment and all that, giving a list of those things, it could be made into a fun element, and we can make clues. We can hide them in the library, outside the library. Anyway, it's a treasure hunt, and students are there in the college. I'm speaking more of undergraduate students, can very effectively be done for LL.M and even for PhD scholars. Little bit of fun doesn't harm anyone. It only enhances our abilities to be happy, and a happy researcher does a better and a more effective research is my take on it. So anyway, we are including some clues in it. So why not we include also some clues which will make them know the campus more, the place where they live, they spend their time for some years. So a mixture of clues should be there. That will make them run from place to place, searching from judgment to judgment, from statute to statute, hidden books, uh, hidden digital database, clues leading them from one judgment ratio to another. Uh, in this manner, it is possible to do it. But for this, the resources required are, first of all, a lot of planning is needed. You must know your campus, you must know your library, you must find a time and adjust with the librarian so that after you set the clues, nobody uses it. Because if a book is misplaced, the clues will go. And you must do it with maybe 3 to 4 teams. Too many teams is very difficult to manage because different set of clues, and finally all should come to the treasure, which is the same. So making those many clues is a bit tedious, but can be well planned. And students' help is required, assistance is required to physically keep them in these places and to monitor and to conduct this. But I had seen practically that it is a very effective and very happy way in which research methodology, in the sense of finding law statutes and cases and books and indexing and all that could be found. And a more academic color to this is you could give open book examinations, wherein questions are asked in open book and you know how to search and what to search. Not about direct questions. What I mean to say is give a principle. So you should know this principle comes from which subject and how to search the index in that to get this particular principle, etc. This is another method which can be used for using digital method uh, for statute study, because we do not indulge uh, uh, the students into a way of reading statute and understanding the statute. Statute study is very important, reading and understanding, and also understanding the technicalities involved in a statute. This is something which I had not used for research under the caption of research methodology, but essentially it is research methodology itself. It was used in the subject of administrative law. This is like a match the following. They had to match it, and they had to do it in the computer lab, in the cyber lab. So the students had to be taken to the cyber lab, depending on the number of systems that we have, 20 to 30 students at a time. And then you give them the match the following sheet, and then they have to immediately search and find out what is the type of section that this is. Is it an overriding clause? Is it a Henry VIII clause? Is it about simple laying? Is it about laying subject to negative resolution? Whatever it is. So in a period of time, students, out of that enthusiasm, they will go to the statutes and they will read the statutes and they will link it to the terms which they see in the textbook. So later, once they read all this, it becomes so easy to establish your case that this is a quasi-judicial action. When we say it, they understand why is it so, why this section was held to be a quasi-judicial action, what is the duty to act judicially which is involved over there. So that is a method which I'm sharing with you. And further, going for historical sources, like the trial of Socrates in Athens or Constituent Assembly debates itself, we can make the students go back to those historical sources, not just to read, but to understand, to comprehend, because comprehending, summarizing, and paraphrasing is very important for research writing. We know that paraphrasing is a rule, no plagiarism but paraphrase. But what is this paraphrasing? How do they paraphrase it? Training must be given. Some segments of activities to be involved to cater to that requirement of learning to paraphrase. And here in this activity, it was there are two activities that you can see here. On the top corner left side, what you are seeing is a Constituent Assembly debate. I had opted for this time Article 21 of the Constitution, and I think on the monitor behind it you can see in the screen it is Alladi Krishna Swami Iyer, if I'm not mistaken, and each student as they are talking, the character that they are depicting now, that was shown on the screen so that we also get familiar with these historical figures in it, and or the members of the Constituent Assembly in it. And they are bringing out that speech. We are going back in time to 1946, probably December 6th. We are going back in time and we are listening to what did they speak about procedure established by law? Did they want due process to be in our constitution? After this, it becomes truly meaningful that they understand the concept so very clearly. And in the process, the research methodologies, they are going through very valuable documents, namely the Constituent Assembly debates. And debates are so massive that those who have referred to will know that it is not possible for a student to learn by heart, and that is not what is expected. They have to summarize, they have to edit, they have to take the most important parts out of it without losing the continuity, and it is conversation mode when it is a debate. So that editing gives a lot of scope for improving the skills of comprehending, summarizing, and paraphrasing. There is a method which is established, which is available in public domain called teaching ethics with short stories. I came across it while I was trying to read and understand more about this topic. But this is something which we had used in this institution where I am from. We use short stories to teach not only ethics but also alternate dispute resolution, the skills required for negotiation through storytelling method. It is possible. Those who are interested can go to this website, and this is an established one. It is there available for all of us. So therefore, I'm just leaving it for you as a piece of information but you could develop on it as well. Teaching ethics with short stories, and they call it TESS, a very, very interesting name. I really liked it, the way it is put. And in important authors, renowned author stories are also put up there, but it should be short stories. Now, I was using Dora quite a long time. I want to decipher Dora for you. Why did I use Dora? And I'm using Dora for the first time before any academic crowd, for that matter. For me, I thought that Dora is very important for research and research ethics. Dora is an explorer. Researcher is an explorer. So my icon for this topic is Dora. So that Dora is there standing near the research maze. She doesn't know her way. We are guiding her throughout different steps, and finally she reaches her destination. And in trying to understand, decipher, break up Dora's attributes, Dora, explorer, and a researcher must always explore. And Dora has with her always this monkey, who is her alter ego, I feel. The monkey is named Boots because of the red boots it is wearing. And it it is with this ethical boots that Dora should walk. So I decided to make boots as the research ethics. Dora and researcher and research ethics cannot be separated. They are one pack. They cannot be. So that is the importance of boots in my mind. And Dora always has in her backpack a map. Map is everything for Dora, and this is her research plan that she has created with our help. And she will carry her purple backpack everywhere. That is her research inventories, whatever skills that she's acquiring as she's learning and acquiring the skills, all that is in her purple backpack, and she's walking around with her more and more developed research skills. But she comes across a lot of obstacles. She has to cross over it. Every researcher comes over obstacles. She has to cross over it to reach her destination. And one such obstacle comes in the form of this blue masked, this particular, I don't know what to call it. It looks like a fox. It is a fox, and it is Swiper. Whenever Swiper comes away, Swiper is depicted as a thief in Dora. So plagiarism, all that FFP, fabrication, falsification, plagiarism, all the research integrity issues, matters which violate the research honesty, intellectual honesty. That is all depicted in the form of this fox, according to me. And the fox will tempt Dora, will try to stop Dora, but Dora will say, "Swiper, swiper, don't swipe," and she has to say it thrice. So sometimes we need to repeat to ourselves, do not give in. Go ahead. You have your alter ego with you, the research ethics. The researcher has to progress with the research ethics. Doesn't matter if you do not have too many number of publications. Whatever you publish is your signature. It is owned by you and only by you. That makes a lot of effect. And but I don't mean to advocate that you should not have enough of publication. Everybody must have. The idea is that the number itself is not sufficient. Each one should be of a certain value, and for that, Dora must have boots with her, otherwise she cannot. And as she passes by, this very nice character is a grumpy old troll who's standing above near a bridge. Dora, the researcher, has to cross several bridges, and she even bridges the gaps sometimes with her research material. So when she's crossing these bridges, there is this grumpy troll who will suddenly come up and will give her a riddle. She has to solve that in order to cross over. Otherwise, he doesn't trouble. But this riddle which he gives, she has to solve along with Boots. That alone will help them to then the troll is happy, and grumpy old troll will allow them to cross a bridge. But grumpy old troll are those levels of doctrines or research points where we lack a clarity. A riddle, it comes in the form of a riddle. We need to solve it. We need to be patient. We need to solve it. Then lot of clarity comes. We get back that torch of clarity back with us, that honesty back with us, and then we move ahead. And sometimes Dora comes to a point where she breaks the fourth wall. Fourth wall is a notion, it is there in many such fictions. Fourth wall is breaking. The fourth wall means communicating directly with the audience. Sometimes you need to come out of your research maze, and you need to communicate. Who will you communicate with? Your own classmates. I mean Dora's classmates. Otherwise, it's a peer group, a guide, uh, whomever you need to associate with, or whoever contributes with you in your research journey. you have to break the fourth wall and you have to communicate sometimes directly with the community who is getting affected or whose cause is being investigated by you in your research. That is Dora for me. I thought I must tell you about why this Dora and why this cartoon figures all the time in a topic like teaching research and ethics. And legal research skills, if we list out a lot of research skills will come our way. Few I'm just taking and seeing how can we deal with this? How can we help Dora with these things? Finding the law is important. So finding it physically, digitally, comprehending it and interpreting it. I had shared some practices which I thought were useful in my case. It may or may not be, you could modify it or adopt totally a different one. But these methods can be used to find the law like the treasure hunt, physically as also digitally, to understand it, reading the statute study, case study, ratio dissecting and all that. And critical thinking has to be like pointers and reminders at every point of time. You need to verify, and you need to verify. No, usually we say we must trust each other, but when it comes to a researcher, a pure researcher does not and should not trust anyone except for the direct authority. And they develop the skill of analytical reasoning in them by giving different examples of well-known cases which they will never forget, like the Donog versus Stevenson. What if Donog orders a ginger ale online? How the theory will change now? Should it be an opaque bottle only? Can't it be a transparent bottle, but I'm ordering it online? How the principles will change? Analytical reasoning can be brought in. And scientific reasoning has to be brought in, because when we speak of gender equality, that is in the case of Shabarimala judgment, women entry into temples, this is a matter where a lot of rights, including gender justice, is there. But on the other side, it is indoctrination, which has not spared you and me as researchers. So we have a lot of onion skills around us, where we are indoctrinated with religious beliefs and a lot of belief system. So when the whole question is about whether a woman can enter temple or not, belief, religion is on one side. The other side is a certain group believe that a woman is not pure at certain point of time. Is there purity and pollution as far as women's life cycle and biological cycle or her menstrual cycle is concerned, for that matter? There comes your scientific reasoning. Your indoctrination may be one thing, but then what you need to go ahead with is with your scientific reasoning. So just like how onion skin is being peeled off, we have to peel it off and say, this is not me, this is not me. And we have to discover that space where we are very objective, and that is required for scientific reasoning. Interdisciplinary approach, very, very important. Whenever a issue which is, say for example, a very controversial or probably a very contemporary criminal case, which is often discussed in public domain and people are following it rigorously, like the recent judgment which came in the snake bite murder case, the Uttara murder case. Those of you from Kerala will definitely know it. Others might also have heard about it, because it is one of a kind in India, the Uttara murder case. It's all about a snake bite, killing a person by employing a snake to bite the person so that it looks like a natural snake bite. There is a lot of scope for taking such a case, such a judgment. Let it be of the trustee and continuing. So here, the law relating to the matter is part of the case study. Of course, the sections of Indian Penal Code and the ingredients required for it. But along with it, would it come study regarding snakes? Which snake is capable of climbing stories up the stairs or up the wall? What sort of poison? What are the different tests employed to find out snake poison? How authentic is that science of toxicology, pharmacology, medicine? What is the myth associated with it? Because in that case, the myth of Takshata and what is called Sarpashap and all were used in that case. IT law, because the amount of surfing the person has done and what not. So taking any one case which we discuss everywhere, sitting on a stone bench, can be used for interdisciplinary approach thinking. In that analytical scientific thinking, all will come around for it. Students and Dora should also be taught, rather be told, that there are tips for reading. Reading techniques are there. When you read a book, you need not read A to Z of that book. You are looking for ideas and continuing. So read and look out for ideas. Ideas are to be, we are looking not for words in it or the literature, beauty of the literature in it, because here we are doing legal research. We may enjoy the beauty of the words and carry it along with a never to forget, but we are looking for ideas, and that gives us a very fast reading possible. And writing is another skill. Of course, I know that you have sessions on writing skills also, but since there is
उनको बस रीफर्बिश करके दे रहे हैं, ऐसा नहीं है. फ्रेंच नेवी इन रफाल विमानों को यूज कर.
So when there are, we are often told, do not plagiarize but paraphrase. This is something I had taken. The source is revealed here. You could search for it. I found it very interesting. So I'm sharing it with you. Some tips which we could follow regarding paraphrasing. Anyway, these slides will be shared also. And since it is not my own and I'm just sharing it with you, you could go through it slowly in the course of time. I'm seeing to the time factor also, 4 minutes more for me. So I'm moving ahead with that. Just one illustration I want to deal with you, and with that I'll conclude this session. How do we train students for an analysis or analytical method? An illustration. A research question is asked. What is society's perception about lawyers? Dora goes and finds this particular poster and comes back. She says, William Shakespeare has said that the first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. So Dora has come with this information. But then the researcher should not stop with that and come to a conclusion that this is the society's perception about lawyers. Like the first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. Shakespeare has said it, which means probably during his time, society did not like lawyers. We could take such an inference, but a true researcher is not to draw an inference so fast, has to find out the truth. So here comes reading and verifying, step number 1. Your reading must be, this is your research, you must be unbiased, and you must read from primary source, not about what others wrote about Shakespeare. Second, you read more. You try to comprehend it. Apply your original thinking. Be critical when need be. Analyze it. And then you form your opinion. This opinion which you form is your own opinion. So own your opinion. Because others will keep theirs. You need not take them. And this information, after we verify, we will come to the conclusion. What we need to verify is, did Shakespeare say that, first of all? Secondly, why did he say that? What was the context in which he said that? What exactly did he say? Did he say that? Or did one of the characters in his play said that? So this, I did it, and I came to this conclusion. But this is a line, no doubt, written by Shakespeare. But Shakespeare did not say that in a public speech. Shakespeare did not say that as his opinion. Shakespeare said that in his play named Henry VI. And a character called Jack is making the statement. A character called Jack is trying to rebel against King Henry VI. And there is a character, a butcher, whose name is Dick the Butcher, and he says his line. He says that to rebel against the king, to cross over the city and to capture the king's fort, let us first kill all the lawyers. The first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. Otherwise, we won't be able to capture power. Which means the finding which the researcher will come to is, lawyers are the first line of defense for liberty and human rights. So from where to where we reached. This is about seeking truth in research and keeping intellectual honesty. There are a lot of research ethics and good practices. Zero tolerance to FFP for sure. Personal responsibility must be there for taking the responsibility and when need be to correct it. Transparency in all our practices. And since we are legal researchers, we have to respond responsibly. We need to be righteous and we need to uphold constitutional values as well. So that we have to tell Dora for sure. And we need to draw a line in the sand for our dignity. To what extent do we go? Each one has to draw a line in the sand. And I'm concluding with the role of a teacher. The teacher has to be training the students regarding the skills and professional development. If a student is taught, trained how to paraphrase, she will know how to paraphrase. Whatever are the reasons for her reasons for her to violate that line which is drawn on the sand, let us equip her, empower her more so that she knows the skills. And she should also be aware of the research values. In those questionnaires that I've given you, sometimes we wonder, is it ethical? Is it not ethical? So that we need to think about it. And all these are required, the role of a teacher, research leadership and management, and personal integrity drives research integrity. So to teach all of these, we need to have it in each one of us. And I would say the most important for a teacher is motivation. I thank my teacher, Dr. Bismi, once again for motivating me because you said I can do it. I did it out of nothing. Where there is not much matter available, nothing available, that it was that one line of motivation which made me sit with you and discuss whatever thoughts it may be, right or wrong, with you. So universities do have their own responsibilities in drawing good research practices and publishing it, announcing it, having statements and guidelines. So thank you so much, all of you, for your listening. Any queries, I'm open to. We must have an ethics compliant research center, and we must impart suitable and effective learning to our students to do that. I have used this particular site for the slides, infographics, and as per their rule, in the last slide, we need to put up their link. That is why this page is there.